Hello everybody and welcome back to the Just Jacob channel. Been a while since I posted a video again, but today I am back and I am going to be doing something a little bit different. Or, well, not necessarily different because I do believe that I've done another video similar to this in the past, all the way back like 4+ years ago with the Siren Head back when that was popular, remember that? In that video, I basically just read up on the story, the lore of the Siren Head, and I remember quite enjoying making that video, and I just haven't really done anything quite like that video since, so I thought that for today, I would bring that back. Today, I am on the subreddit called r/scary stories. It is Reddit, so, you know, I don't really know anything, I don't know anything about it, so hopefully we'll get something good. I don't know. I think to start off, I'm just going to go with the top story of the last month, which is called I Woke Up in the Hospital 2 weeks ago. Everyone seems off. And then if it doesn't take too long, I might do another one to end it off, but we'll see. First, though. Perfect. Classic. All right. So, just getting right into it, may as well. The story starts off, bear with me. I know this sounds crazy. 2 weeks ago, I woke up in a hospital bed. They told me I was in a car accident. I don't remember the crash, just a blinding flash of light. Since being discharged, things have felt wrong. Not just slightly off, deeply off. Like the world is wearing a mask and I'm the only one who can see the seams. Though little things were off at first, easy to dismiss. But today, something happened. Something I can't explain, and now I know for sure whatever this is, it isn't just my head. This is real. And I'm scared as fuck. Alright? First paragraph and we're already getting the F words out. At first, nothing seemed too weird. I never spent a night in a hospital before, so waking up in a sterile, fluorescent-lit room was bound to feel unsettling. I brushed it off. My parents were more doting than usual, but for people whose son had almost died, they took it surprisingly well. At least until we got to the car. That's when the concern cracked, and the disappointment seeped through. They scolded me for wrecking my 2003 Saturn shit box. I looked at the wrong camera. What is that? Calling me reckless. The words sounded right, worried, even empathetic, but something was off. My mom's face kept shifting, like she couldn't settle on how she was supposed to feel. My dad, though? He barely moved. Interesting. He sat rigid, staring straight ahead as if turning his head wasn't an option, but I could feel him watching me. His gaze lingered in the rearview mirror, heavy and cold. Each time I glanced up, I'd catch his eyes for just a split second before he snapped them back to the road. But I knew he never really looked away. After the 6th time, I stopped looking away too. The mirror became a silent one-way standoff as I waited for him to scold me through it again. He didn't so much as glance as it for the rest of the drive. It was a short drive. None of this was cause for concern, really. Nothing that followed was all that crazy, but when we got home, I felt a shift. Coming from the harsh fluorescence of the hospital and the golden stretch of road outside, I wasn't prepared for the cool dimness of the house. It wasn't dark, exactly. Mom always kept the shades open. She liked the light. But now, they weren't quite shut, just not open enough. Like someone had hesitated halfway and left them there. My family didn't linger. After some pleasantries, Mom disappeared into the master bedroom. Dad went back to work, and I was left alone on the living room couch. I popped a Tylenol, took a few hits from my pen in the bathroom, and settled in. The rest of the day was mostly silent from the occasional sound of Mom's bedroom door opening and closing. Okay, So yeah, just right off the bat here, something is definitely off, as the title very clearly pointed out. Where it's like things are just different enough to be off-putting from the normal everyday life of these people, from the way that the protagonist is speaking. I wasted time scrolling on my phone, barely aware of the shifting sunlight, until a beam stretched across the room and hit my eyes. I turned from my pillow to the armrest, bought myself another 20 minutes, and another beam crept up, warming my feet like some kind of passive-aggressive warning from the sun. Alright, message received. I sighed, peeled myself off the couch, and mumbled, fuck it, you win, before dragging myself to the room. I was asleep before I could think too much about it. The week that followed was unusual, to say the least. It was summer break, and normally I'd be stocking shelves at Walmart or messing around with my friends, but doctor's orders were pretty straightforward. You've got a concussion, don't be an idiot. No standing for long periods, no heavy lifting, no unnecessary risks. Fine by me. I got a doctor's note, a couple weeks off, and a temporary escape from the joys of minimum wage labor. It wasn't the end of the world. Part-time jobs come and go. For now, I just had some headaches and a free pass to lay low. Better that than risking something worse. Whether it was from dreading work or from one of my friends intentionally checking a basketball into my skull because we're over-competitive degenerates. Wow. Okay. Drop the word degenerate. I didn't really care to go outside much. The weather hadn't been as sunny as the first day I got back. Clouds hung low, thick and unmoving, like they were pressing down on the neighborhood. Even when the sun did break, though, it was this weak, watery light that barely seemed to touch the ground. It just made staying inside feel more justified. So I did. I moved the Xbox from the basement to my room. Normally that would have been a no-go, but if anyone asked, I'd just plead the concussion card and call it a win. Alright, very cool. No one even commented on it, which felt strange. Like they should have, but didn't. I just holed up, gaming, eating, zoning out in front of Skyrim lore videos in the living room, whatever. Wow, not gonna lie, this kinda sounds a lot like me. Aside from family dinners, I didn't talk to my parents much. The conversations at the table were dull, barely conversations at all. Dad was working later than usual, often slipping away right after eating. Mom was around. I knew that much. I heard her. The bedroom's doors opening and closing, the creak of the floorboards when she walked, the soft... What? What is that? The soft shift of her feet brushing across the carpet upstairs? Okay. Well, that writing was a little bit awkward. I don't know what sound that's supposed to convey. But I barely saw her. Not in the kitchen, not in the living room, not even when I grabbed snacks at night. Come to think of it, I don't think I ever saw her downstairs, aside from dinner. Some groceries spoiled, which was weird because Mom was normally on top of that kind of thing. When I pointed it out, she took me shopping, which was actually kind of nice. I got way more say in what we stocked the fridge with than usual. That was a win. But as we wandered the aisles, I noticed something. People were staring at me. Not in a casual, passing way. Intensely. Like they were trying to memorize my face. Or maybe like they weren't sure what they were looking at. Each time I caught someone, they snapped their head away like they hadn't been watching at all. But the feeling stayed. Not a single person looked like they could hold a normal expression on their faces. It was like they shifted through raw emotions during the most mundane tasks. I began to feel in danger. And worse, I started to notice something else. As Mom passed people... Alright, let me start that over. As Mom and I passed people, I swore I could hear them pivot to watch me after we walked by. I never actually saw it happen, but I could hear it. The soft squeak of a shoe turning, the faint rustle of fabric shifting. I wanted to ask Mom if she noticed anything, but the words stuck in my throat. If she hadn't, I'd sound crazy. If she had, I didn't want to know. I tried to shrug it off. I've been a complete goblin for the past week, barely keeping up with shaving. And yeah, my facial hair was patchy as hell. Maybe I just looked like a mess. Maybe I was imagining things. Whatever. Everyone around me is acting like zombies, but whatever. I feel like you should probably be questioning more, not just assuming that, like, there was something on his face or, like, he was ugly. I don't know. I don't know. Like, people don't act like this. When I got back home, I hopped on Xbox, made plans with some friends for later in the week, and told myself I'd get cleaned up by then. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. Yeah, you know, every time a story needs to say everything is fine multiple times in a row, things are not fine. 2 days passed, nothing noteworthy, just my growing awareness of how off everything felt. Mom was moving around more, at least. I think she was. I'd hear her footsteps, soft shuffling noises that always seemed to stop right outside my door. The first few times I brushed it off. Maybe she was just passing by. Maybe she was listening for signs that I was awake. But the more I paid attention, the more it felt deliberate. The house was dim, sure, but my room wasn't. I kept my bay window shades open, letting in just enough light to make it feel normal, or at least less like the rest of the house. The hallway outside, though, it was always in shadow. There was only one time of day where light from the high windows in the living room even touched my door, and it wasn't now. So, has this person questioned at all, like, what's going on here? Like, he hasn't asked anybody in his family, like, hey, why is the house dark all the time? What's going on? He's just been letting it happen, not questioning a thing, not asking his mom why she, like, just keeps wandering the house like a drone, barely talking or interacting with anybody. Like, these are all very drastic changes from the sounds of things, and yet he isn't really questioning much. That's why I knew I shouldn't have seen anything, and yet I did. I heard her, that same soft shuffle. I glanced over from the edge of my bed, half expecting nothing, just another trick of my nerves. But for a split second, I saw them, her toenails, just at the edge of the door. The instant I registered them, they shot back, too fast. So fast it was like they hadn't been there at all, but I knew what I saw. The carpet where they had been left the faintest depression before slowly rising back into place. My stomach twisted. Okay, that was it. No more dab pen. No more convincing myself I wasn't tripping out when clearly I was seeing shit. I waited, listened, heard her shuffle away. Her door clicked shut. Weird. I exhaled, rubbing my face, and stood up. Enough of this. I need to get out of the house. Needed to see my friends. James, Nikki D, and Tyler. Wow. Why is he not talking to anybody in the house? Why is his first instinct to leave instead of ask his mom why she's acting so strange and like stalking him outside his door? I exhaled, rubbed my face, and stood up. Enough of this. Nikki D, of course. Yeah, can't forget Nikki D. The goal was simple. Sober up, ground myself, and maybe, just maybe, bring up what was going on. Over Xbox, they all sounded completely normal. I'd only mentioned a few things in passing. Nothing that set off my alarms for them. Most of our talks had just been about girls from our school, memes, and bullshitting in Rainbow Six Siege lobbies. Wow, so relatable. Maybe I was just overthinking. Maybe everything was fine. But as I grabbed my keys and headed to for the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere upstairs, Mother was listening. See, again, like, he's just treating his mom like the boogeyman now instead of, like, doing this thing we call talking to her. That's also an option. Obviously, driving wasn't an option. My car was totaled. My parents handed me $250 for the scrap it was apparently worth. And that was that. So I dusted my old bike from the shed in the back. I didn't even glance at the house on my way out. Didn't even need to see my creepy ass mom peeking from some window upstairs like a horror movie extra. Okay. I don't know if this is how someone would react. I don't remember how old the person is supposed to be at the point of this story. But I feel like if your mom was doing these things, you wouldn't just be thinking, oh, silly mom acting like a horror movie villain. I'll just leave for a couple days, let her get it out of her system or whatever. If I did, I'd probably swerve straight into traffic just to avoid dealing with it. Instead, I shoved the thoughts down and let myself believe that for just a little longer, that I was just tripping balls. Okay. Some of the writing in this is a little funny. And trying really hard to be, like, relatable, I guess? I don't know. That was safer. That was better. Besides, my odds were good. I still had headaches, and I was still a little stoned. I was still taking Tylenol. Put it all together, and maybe my brain was just running like a laggy Xbox. Okay. Really can't stop talking about the Xbox. I rode up to the high school football field in about 20 minutes and hopped the fence. You drove 20 minutes? Okay. Everyone was already there. James, Nikki D, and Tyler, the crew. And what followed? It was awesome. The dab pumps were a little stiff at first, but once we got going, everything fell into place. We had a pump, a football, which lasted about 10 minutes before it needed air again, and a frisbee. The sun was bright for the first time since I'd left the hospital, and for the first time in days, I felt good. I'd shaved, I was surrounded by my friends, and I started to think, no, I started to hope, that maybe I'd just been missing out on real in-person socialization. I almost fell for it. I almost let myself believe everything was fine. We played for hours. Eventually, we were wiped. Ready to debrief before heading home, I was closest to the corner of the field where the old water pump was, so I went first. Yanked the lever, let the water rush out, cupped my hands, drank. The others chatted behind me, their voices blended with the soft splash of the pump. Refreshed, I wandered back to where we'd been playing frisbee. Who plays frisbee still? I feel like that's something that you only do with, like, your dog or as a really little kid. These are like teenagers. Flopped onto the grass and pulled out my phone. There we go. That's much more realistic. The sun was brutal, washing out the screen. I tilted it, angling downward to block the glare, squinting as I reached for the power button, and then I froze. Because in the black reflection of my phone's screen, I saw them. All three of them, standing at the water pump, staring at the back of my head. James and Tyler's faces were wrong. Their jaws hung open, too wide, far past what should have been possible. It wasn't just slack, it was distorted. Their bottom lips curled downward just enough to reveal rows of teeth. Their heads tilted forward, eyes locked onto me, shoulders hunched, arms dangling too loosely at their sides. They looked like something out of a nightmare. Like The Scream, but worse. Nicky wasn't as bad. He was staring too, but his face shifted. The same way my mom's did when she picked me up from the hospital. Like he couldn't quite get it right, and yet their conversation hadn't stopped. Their voices came out perfectly, flowing like normal. But James and Tyler were not moving their mouths. The water pump was still running. I had my phone up for maybe a second, but my whole body jerked like I'd been stabbed. My fingers fumbled, and my phone slipped from my hands, landing on the grass with a soft thud. Okay. Nikki asked if I was good. I could barely think, barely breathe. Beads of sweat formed on my temples. I swallowed hard, forced a smile, forced the words out. Yeah, I'm great. And I turned to face them, normal. They looked normal. Everything was normal. But my stomach twisted into knots because I knew what I saw. And for the first time since I got home, I realized I had nowhere to run. Maybe the police, I don't know, like normal ways to react other than driving 20 minutes away from your house. I don't know. You sure you're good? I can't even remember who asked me that. Yeah, I'm good, man. My heart's just pounding. I think I should go home. Did I say heart? I meant head. That part was true. It was pounding. Nikki frowned. Need a ride? Internally, fuck no. Externally, alright, I don't even know if I want to read this next part. It's kind of stupid. Externally, nah, bro. What, you like driving dudes around in your car or something? You into teenage boys? I got this. Okay. I can kind of see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make it, it's like, I don't know, I guess this is something that a teenage kid would say, but it's just, some of these lines are making it hard for me to take this story seriously the further I get through. The other two laughed. The tension cracked, just a little. We all started getting ready to part ways, but I dragged it out. Paced around their cars, made jokes, tossed the football over the hoods. The hoods? The hoods of the cars, okay. Anything to stall. I kept stealing glances at the mirrors and windows, waiting for another glimpse of what was under their veils. The first few times, I swear I saw their eyes dart away from mine in the reflections, like they knew what I was doing. Then, it was like they just stopped looking towards me altogether. No matter how I angled myself, how fast I glanced, I never caught them like I had on the field. And yet, looking back, I can't shake the feeling like they knew exactly where I was looking. Like they had just found ways to stare at me from different angles without me ever catching their eyes. I'm just glad they let me go home. I don't know what the end goal is, but I feel like I'm being bled out, played with, before I'm eaten. Eaten. I don't know why they had to say eaten twice. I managed to steady my breathing on the ride back. As I pulled up to my house, I veered towards the spare garage, an old detached structure barely used except for storage. I figured I'd leave my bike in there for now, just so I wouldn't have to linger outside any longer than necessary. I wheeled up to the side door, gripping the rusted handle. The lock had long since broken, and with a firm push, the door groaned open. Dust and stale air hit me first, the scent of old cardboard and forgotten junk. The space was dim, faintly illuminated by streetlights filtering through the grimy windows. I rolled my bike inside, careful not to trip over scattered tools and warped furniture, when I froze. In the center of the garage, right where it shouldn't be, was my car. Perfectly intact, not totaled, not even scratched. My breath caught in my throat. I took a slow step forward, fingers brushing the hood, cold, real, tangible. The last I heard of this car, I was told it had been wrecked, scrapped. My parents handed me $250 and said that's all it was worth. So why was it here? I circled to the driver's seat and peered inside. The keys weren't in the ignition, but they dangled from the dash. Something was off. Okay. Now it's getting a little interesting. The car that he had supposedly had an accident with, which was the start of this entire story, the reason why he was in the hospital, supposedly, doesn't seem like that's the truth anymore, is just sitting here in the garage completely intact as if nothing happened. The keys are even still in there like it was just used. So now that poses the question, why was he in the hospital? Okay. The seat, normally adjusted to fit me, was pushed all the way back, like someone much taller had been sitting there. A low tremor crawled up my spine. The car, despite being untouched, was covered in dust. How long was I in the hospital? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter? Doesn't matter? You were told that this thing was completely destroyed in the car accident that sent you to the hospital. Now, it's completely fine. So now you have no idea why you're in the hospital, basically. It doesn't matter. It was getting dark. I did a quick fluid check, ran my hands over the tires, making sure I'd be ready if I needed it, then jogged back to the house. But the second I stepped through the front door, it hit me again. Rapid, aggressive shuffling, door slam, then, in a voice too casual, too normal to be real, "Honey, you missed dinner. Want me to heat some up for you?" Nope. Nope. It's okay, Mom. I'll handle it. The living room TV was blue screened, casting a sickly glow over the open floor plan. I didn't dare mess with my parents' setup. At this point, they had to know I was onto them, and I would do nothing to disturb the peace. I grabbed some snacks from the fridge, went straight to my room, locked the door, dug out my old iPod Gen 6 from middle school, buried in a shoebox, and set it to charge. Why? What could you need your iPod for? I don't know if this is too shocking. I don't know how many people use iPods now, but I've never had one. I just don't really like Apple that much. For a while, I just sat there, listening. It was too quiet. I FaceTimed the iPod from my phone, hesitating, debating whether I should even leave my room. The upstairs layout was simple. 4 rooms. Mine was first on the left, at the top of the stairs. My parents' was last on the right, at the very end, a closet, where we kept detergent and towels. My bathroom was the last door on the left. The plan was simple. A strategic iPod drop-off during my next bathroom run. I executed flawlessly. Waiting for the next round of patrolling before slipping out, I cracked the closet door just enough to give my iPod a view down the hall. Plugged the charger in beneath the bottom shelf and left it there. A hidden eye. A way to see what my parents really looked like when they thought no one was watching. I almost regret this decision. It seemed fine when I got back into my room and locked the door. I quietly angled the dresser in front of it, wedging my desk chair as tightly as I could under the handle. Too much movement. I heard my parents' door fly open, slamming into the inside wall of their bedroom. By the time I grabbed my phone, she was already there, standing at the end of the hall, facing my door, swaying. She was past the weird shifting face that Nikki had. Whatever this is, there's stages. Her jaw wasn't just distended, it was stretched, beyond its limit. The skin pulled so tight it dangled with every sway of her body. Even from here, I could see the bags under her eyes. Not just dark circles, but loose sagging folds that dropped to her upper lip, exposing way too much dry pink eyelid. Her hair, thin and patchy, clung to her scalp with a greasy sheen from the glow of the living room TV and the dim light spilling from the master bedroom. Her arms didn't hang. Her elbows were bent at stiff, unnatural 90-degree angles. Shoulders hunched forward, wrists limp, long, bony fingers dangling. A lot of dangling parts. Don't like that. The only way I knew it was my mom was the pajamas top. It clung to her sharp, skeletal frame, stretched over the ridges of her spine. Hanging loose around her frail shoulders, she leaned in. Pressed against the door, her head tilted, slow, deliberate, like she could see through the wood, tracking exactly where I was. And then, a whisper. "Honey, are you awake?" Her mouth didn't move. Lips stretched thin, jaw unhinged and frozen in that grotesque, slack-jawed state. But the words came anyway, perfectly clear, perfectly human. "I know you're up, honey. I just heard you moving." Yeah, I just moved some furniture around. I didn't like where my TV was. A pause. Then, the whisper again. Perfectly clear, perfectly human. "Can I see?" My throat tightened. "Tomorrow," I lied. "I'm naked right now. I don't want to get dressed."
What in fuck's name?
Okay. Please work, please work. I was frozen, my face glued to my phone screen, not daring to look away from the grainy FaceTime feed. My breath barely made a sound, then finally... "Okay, tomorrow then." As she spoke, something shifted in the farthest, darkest corner, past the stairs. At first, I thought it was just shadow, but then an arm. Thin, brittle, dangling down from the ceiling like a puppet on cut strings. Another arm followed. Then a body, slow and deliberate, lowered itself down the wall. My stomach turned to ice. Dad. Did he ever even leave the house? Was he already this far along when he picked me up from the hospital with Mom? None of it mattered. He moved with absolute silence, clambering up the stairs as Mom whispered one last time, "Good night, son. I love you." Then Dad shuffled past her, same stiff, unnatural cadence Mom had been moving with for weeks. If I weren't staring straight at him, he has been dealing with this for weeks? Are you kidding me? Hasn't called the cops a single time, by the way. Has no idea if there's anything wrong with them. I guess he must just assume that it's everybody now because his mom, dad, and his 3 friends were weird. But yeah, still hasn't called them, or anybody else for that matter, to see if he can get help, neighbors. He went to the master bedroom, closed the door, then, without making a single noise, he came back. A trick I would have surely fell for if I hadn't been watching them this whole time. He ended right behind where she was standing. And that brings me to now. For the past 2 hours, they've been outside my door. Every move I make, they track it. Through the wood, through the silence. It's 3:02 a.m. If I can just make it to daylight without passing out, I think I can open the bay window and jump. After that, straight to the spare garage. Grab the car, get the fuck out of town. I don't know how far this shit has spread, but I can't stay here. Oh, fuck. They're getting on the ground, lowering themselves, peeking under the door. I might have to go right now. Okay, fuck. I'll update this when I'm safe. Okay. And that's where it ends for now. So that was... I woke up in the hospital 2 weeks ago. Everyone seems off. It seems like the story is not quite over, I'm pretty sure. It definitely ended on a cliffhanger and made it sound like there was going to be updates. But overall, yeah, that was not too bad. There were a couple moments of, like, awkward writing that, like, I didn't really vibe with, I guess, and kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I think that was just the story trying to replicate what teenagers would act like, which I guess this is not too inaccurate. But yeah, I think that was definitely not too bad. I enjoyed that read. And I feel like it left just enough things unanswered to where when it does eventually continue, if it does, then I feel like I have to read the continuation because this left so many things unanswered. Do we even know? Do we even know the character's name? No, I don't think we do. Okay. But yeah, we don't know why he was in the hospital because clearly the truth was not told. His car was completely fine, so that was left unanswered. Yeah, we don't know what's wrong with the people. We don't know why they're acting like this, like what they are actually, because they're probably not people. Maybe the people were taken. Maybe they're all just dead. We don't know. I think I might save this page and occasionally check up on it to see if the update by this creator has been posted yet. And if it does, then I will probably do a follow-up video if you guys want to see it. If you do, then make sure to subscribe and also like this video. Maybe even leave a comment. But yeah, anyways, guys, that was fun. Since it was only one story, I will probably do more of these in the future if this video does well enough. This was just the top story of this month. I could also, at some point, read the top story of all time in the entire subreddit, which is a story by u/Joshua Andrew 1985 from 6 years ago, and a story called "This Is Not a Side Note." So, if you want me to read that, then let me know. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. More content coming soon. Like I said, be sure to subscribe. Check out my other channels, Jacob Nelson, and also the Caffeine Crashers. Just a little bit of a exclusive sneak peek. Me and Aiden, we might be starting a podcast on the Caffeine Crashers. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.